Welcome to Learning Life Skills Together. This is our weekly community Zoom meeting where our guests help us to go deeper into the 4 life skills and open up a huge array of chances to practice them. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zoom meeting number 16. So tonight we have a special recorded feature, which we'll play in a little bit. But first, as always, we begin with practice. And so I'd like to introduce a practice not entirely of attention. So as we did the week before last, we started to talk about how our attention skill also helps us with coming into better balance or greater balance when we are maybe emotionally a little bit out of whack. So this is a very, very simple practice, a very basic practice. It is a practice of one thing that we can always count on, which is gravity. So I'm going to invite you just to begin to pay attention to however it is that you're sitting or standing or lying down right now. Just bringing that attention into your body. Feeling the places where you're touching down. Maybe your feet are on the floor. Maybe your thighs and buttocks are on the chair. Maybe your arms are resting on chair arms or on yourself. Or maybe they're hanging down. So, is it possible now to feel that gravity is holding you where you are? You are in your chair or on your couch or reclining on your bed. And gravity is doing the work. So you don't have to. So maybe you could just check in. Check in first at your feet and your legs. So can you allow them to be held? Can you let gravity hold you? It's doing it anyway. So if you meet with effort, maybe you can take a second look at it. Do I really need that much effort? Can I just let my legs be held, my feet be held? Maybe you can move up a little further and feel the center of your body, the trunk. So from your hips up to your shoulders. Maybe you're leaning back. Maybe you're totally reclining. Maybe you're just balanced. Maybe you're standing up. And you're balanced and not needing to put forth a lot of effort. Just noticing how gravity can hold you. How you can sort of give yourself. And you could check into your arms from your shoulders all the way out to your fingertips. Can your arms just rest where you've placed them? So just letting gravity hold you. Letting the surface that you're on hold you. And giving it some time. Really feeling that activity of gravity holding you, pulling you. Maybe that sense that you have that your arms weigh something, that maybe they get heavier as you let them be held more. And you could bring attention to your head and neck. Perhaps they're resting against the back of a chair or on a bed. Or again, maybe they're just standing up, but there's a way, a particular way of holding your head where there's very little effort because gravity is holding you. So maybe now you could feel your whole body and notice its weight. Notice that sense of it resting where you've placed it. And so that's a lot of attention to the body and how it is. I want to turn once more, just a little bit inside and say, how does it feel right now? What is it like for you to maybe be moving towards rest? Maybe to be settling down where you are and maybe even settling in for some listening. So I want to invite you now, if you'd like, to check in with us. So you could put something in the chat about what you noticed after just letting gravity take hold of you. So I'll give you a little chance to do that, and I'll introduce this recording that we're sharing with you tonight. So this is a radio show, and I am being interviewed. So it was a chance for me to talk about the Learning Life Skills Together program and where it is roughly right now and what our hopes are for it. So I hope you'll settle in and listen to the conversation. And if you have comments, if you have questions as the recording goes along, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I will come back and answer or talk a little more about what you're interested in after the recording is complete. I think the recording's about 20 minutes, so we have lots of time. So, here comes the program.
Good morning and welcome to our show, Let's Talk About It, a program about any and all aspects of mental health and wellness, including the tough stuff. You're listening at 95.3 WCHE. My co-host and I are public health educators, and we work with people in Chester County, hearing their stories, teaching them about mental health, trauma, and suicide prevention. We know these topics aren't always easy to talk about, but we hope to change that. This program is supported by Chester County Departments of Health and Mental Health, as well as the Chester County Intermediate Unit to inform and educate residents. It is not intended to be mental health advice or treatment. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I am Chelsea Melrath. I am the coordinator of the Chester County ACEs, or Adverse Childhood Experiences Coalition, and I'm a contracted trauma specialist with the Chester County Health Department.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Blue. I'm the education director for the David Farber Aspire Center at Thomas Jefferson University and the program director for mental health first aid in Chester County. And today, I'm happy to say my friend and colleague from Westchester University days, is here in the studio with us. Don McCown, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Don is a professor of public health and director of the Center for Contemplative Studies at Westchester University. He's also the author or editor of 5 books on contemplation in education and clinical work, and presents internationally on those topics. And that's all good stuff, but we're actually here to talk to you about something specific today among the array of things that you do, and that is learning life skills together. So I'm going to start out by asking you, if you would, to give us a little overview about what is learning life skills together and how did it get started?
Okay. Well, as everyone is well aware, we do have a youth mental health crisis. It started before the pandemic, but the pandemic certainly didn't help things. So my friend, Senator Carolyn Comida, I've been working with Carolyn for a very long time, since she was mayor of Westchester, and working basically with the skills of paying attention, emotion regulation, distress tolerance, and effective communication. And so she asked me back then, 12 years ago, something like 13 years ago, something like that, to create a program, or to do a program with her and her staff and some other folks as well. We actually had the senator and several judges in the program. It went really well. She loved it. She took on some of the practices as just part of how she lives. And we've always sort of continued to communicate. She came to me and said, what can we do in this situation with the mental health crisis among our kids? And I said, well, we need to do something preventive. We're so involved with, how do we react to the crises that we're forgetting that, maybe we cannot have so many crises. So that's the genesis of this program. And what I looked at was, what are the treatments that we do with the kids who are in crisis? And right dead center of the very best of them are these 4 skills, 4 really life skills that as successful adults we have, and the kids need to be taught them, or they need to live in an environment that's just saturated with them. So the idea of the program is to help the parents recognize that they have those skills, brush up those skills, use them with their kids as often as possible, and then share them. So we're not saying become a teacher. We're just saying do it yourself and help your kids when you see that they need to turn on those skills.
Right. So. It's really, as I understand it, helping parents kind of get in touch with the things that they, in some cases, would be helpful for them to get in touch with anyway. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I speak for myself in that regard. And at the same time, recognize that by getting in touch with some of these emotion regulation, for example, kind of getting better at that, we're modeling that. So we're just kind of reinforcing the necessity to model the skills that we hope our children will learn.
Yeah. And at any age. So it's from infancy through, I don't know, my daughter's 42. So there you go. We want to model these things. So if we look at what they are, it's paying attention is the first one. That's something we all know how to do, but we don't necessarily always do it. Paying attention to what's happening around us, what's happening with our child, and how that makes us feel. So attention to the outside and to the inside. That's the skill. That's the skill that everything else rests on, right?
Yeah, it's sort of that. I always think of it as learning to live more intentionally, right? Like you're taking yourself off of autopilot.
Taking yourself off autopilot is perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think sometimes it can be very challenging as adults, as parents, to pay attention given all of the distractions that are around us.
Absolutely. And so when we do that, what kind of a situation do we create with ourselves and our kids? We create one that doesn't have those distractions in it, maybe only for that couple of minutes. But that's a really solid moment in which we make a connection together, right? And everything rests on being connected to each other and knowing how they feel and knowing how we feel, right? The situation becomes workable at that point. If we're thinking over here and they're thinking over there and somebody's got their phone out and all that kind of stuff going on, we're not connected and we're not going to make good decisions or have good dialogue about anything.
Yeah, I've said before that I know that when my kids were little, I think it was after a vacation sometimes that you realize how, and I'm not even talking about where it's exotic amusement park like. I just mean where you're outside of your house and you're spending time with your kids. You are often find yourself in that situation where you're focused on them, they're focused on you. And when you have that awareness, you become sensitive to how infrequently it occurs. And so I think vacations are often a good example of that. When you're on a vacation, you don't have work and home chores and all of that going on around you, and you can focus on them and they can focus on you. And you look at how good it is when that happens.
I love that. So, how many 3-minute, 5-minute vacations can we build into a day and a week with our children?
Exactly.
Right? That's terrific. That's what we're trying to get at ultimately. This isn't some onerous thing, where we're going to teach 4 life skills to the kids. No. It's much lighter than that. And the whole program is built in a much lighter way. So let me explain for a minute how it's built. So this is an online program built on the same kind of technical machinery that online courses are for universities, right? So you sign on very simply with your first name and your zip code and your birth year. That's all we're asking you. And of course, an email address so we can stay in touch with you. So you sign on and you can instantly access the 5 modules of the course. So we're building them out piece by piece, but you would go through the introduction, which is about 25 minutes, but it's broken down into 5-minute pieces. So you come on, you listen to the first 5 minutes, something else is happening, you drop it, you go somewhere else, you do whatever you have to do, you come back and you sign in and you pick up right where you left off. So this is really meant for parents whom we know have all those distractions. And it's built around that, but each module gives you a little something to think about and something to practice in the between time. So you take the introduction, then you take the first module, and the first module is about this kind of attention. And so there's descriptions, understandings of what we're talking about. And then there are actual practices that you can do, things to do for yourself first, because we want to be sure that we know what we're doing and how we're doing it and sort of get ourselves practiced up. And then we start bringing it into daily life, right? So one of the things we wanted to make sure was happening was that we were sharing these skills in positive situations, in situations that are actually good for all of our mental and physical health. So, for example, we say, if you want to practice paying attention, go for a walk. Now, I'm not saying one walk. I'm saying you're signing up to make this a practice. So we're going to go for a walk 3 times a week. And that's when we get a chance to see how we are and how our kids are. So it's raining out, but not badly. It's just, it's a Scotch mist. What the heck? We could go out. How do we get ourselves to do that? Right? So paying attention, how do I feel about this? What can we do? What are the choices we can make? Doing that with our child sort of models that whole thing. But then when we do go for the walk, we're paying attention on the walk. So one, we're away from our screens because we're out actively looking at what's happening around us. And 2, we're not just looking around, we're looking within. So what we encourage people to do is to check in with themselves and speak it out loud. Wow, right now I'm feeling kind of wet, but it's really kind of fun too. So I'm kind of excited having the raindrops falling on me, And how do you feel? What are you noticing about yourself? So we're sharing that skill. I think there's a great deal of something that's happening in building that relationship. So yeah, we're talking about rain and a walk. Then when it comes time to talk about the harder stuff, we have that bridge built, right? We have a way of dialoguing with each other that I think is really important.
That's one of the things that comes up a lot. I know when we talk to people in the county, and I'm going to let Chelsea talk probably in our second half about the fact that she's deep in this right now as the parent of a young person. But this opportunity that if you don't build that bridge when they're younger, it's going to be very, very difficult to create a bridge with a 16-year-old. And so some of those foundational habits are going to go a long way to creating that. Also, we skipped over a very important fact here. This is free.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. This is free.
FREE.
Yeah.
It is a free program for people to access. It doesn't cost anything. They're not going to take your name, address, phone number, social security number, credit card. None of that is going to be asked of you if you go onto the website. So I think that's a really important part.
Yes, that is. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. So, Don, I think we're coming up on a little bit of a break. We are going to hear a word from our sponsors, but I'm really excited to continue this conversation with you about this incredible program, free program, like Amanda had mentioned. So we're coming up on a break. You're listening to Let's Talk About It with Chelsea and Amanda. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Let's Talk About It, a show about any and all aspects of mental health and wellness, including the tough stuff. I'm here with my co-host, Amanda, as well as a special guest that we have on our show today, Don McCown. And we're talking a little bit about this new program that you're offering, a free program here in Chester County called Learning Life Skills Together. And so before the break, Don, we talked all about kind of like the design of this program, what it looks like, what you're really, really focused on. And I guess thinking about myself, I'm a parent of an 8-year-old. And so sometimes it can be really challenging, at least in my life as a parent, to kind of put everything aside, put those distractions aside, really be intentional about how we're spending time together, how we're communicating with one another, how we are connecting, and really making sure that I'm solely focused on him, our relationship, our connection, and building his resilience as much as possible, right? Because we know we're all going to be confronted with challenges, with traumas, with adversities, with stress. And so I want to make sure that I'm setting my kid up for success. So I love this program. I think it's incredible. I'm really excited to actually go through it all. And I know before the break, you were talking with us about some of your principles of this program. One was, turning off all of those distractions. Can you tell us a little bit more?
So we were talking about the paying attention skill, right? Paying attention in and out, and doing that, as you were just saying, intentionally. So, but it doesn't have to be a big deal. This is kind of what we're getting at. So if we're saying, if you're going to pay attention, take a walk with your child. It can be a 10-minute walk around the block.
I think that
right?
makes people feel a little bit better to think that you're asking them to incorporate a 10-minute, break or vacation, as we called it earlier.
As we were saying.
A few times a day. We're not saying drop everything and create a 3-hour window.
No, not at all.
Nobody can do that.
You don't need
easily.
to get in the car, and you don't need to do anything special, because our kids, they don't really need the special as much as they need us, and I'm addressing carers too here. The program is for parents and carers, as we call them. So anyone who cares for the child, can be doing these things, can be using themselves as a model, can be actually sharing these things. So if you think about what you can do with a walk, you can go walk in nature. You can go walk and watch the birds. You can take your fishing pole for a walk with your kid, and because you were going to go do that anyway. So why not? These are the kinds of opportunities that we hope to build in with each one of the skills. So that was attention. The next skill is emotion regulation. So we need to recognize, oh, look how I'm feeling. Look what's going on with me. And then how do I work with that? What are some things that I can do, right? And we all have ways of doing that. As successful adults, we know how to work with ourselves. We don't always do it. I mean, frankly, I know I don't, but I do know how. And so if we can be a little more, again, intentional around that, because we're thinking, oh, here's the skill of emotion regulation that I'm trying to share with my child. I think that that's awesome. I think that I use that word intentionally, because the thing that we're suggesting people do with their kids to work on this skill, or sort of the broad idea of activity that we can do, is to experience awe. Okay. So awe and beauty, we know, just like walking is good for us physically and mentally, experiencing awe and beauty is good for us, whether that's going out and standing by a lake or standing by the river and just watching it flow by and feeling the awe of nature, or whether it's looking at a picture book for 5 minutes with your little one, wow, what do you see in that picture? And we're working with those feelings, right? And those are positive feelings. And we have a ton of research that tells us that experiencing awe and beauty changes how we are in the moment, and actually sort of moves us forward in our mental and physical wellness. Then the next one is the next skill is, how do I get through the hard moments in my life, right? This is not going to change. I'm going to have to endure this. I'm going to have to get through this. What do I do? How do I manage that? Again, as successful adults, we've done it. We know how to do it. We have some ideas. We'll give you some more in the class, in the course, but sort of there it is. So what's a way that we can do that with our children that's positive and intriguing to them? Well, we say, how about making things, right? So teach a child to crochet or knit. They're going to get to that point where they want to throw the thing right across the room.
I did.
Right? Exactly. So there's all kinds of ways that we can start to learn to get through the tough moments of not being able to get that chord on the guitar that I'm practicing, So working really small, but also working with something that we know is good for us, that we know has these physiological brain chemistry kinds of effects on us, right? And so the final one is communicating effectively. So if I know how I'm feeling and I'm able to work with how I'm feeling, imagine if your 3-year-old, and I have evidence of this, were to say, Mommy, right now I'm feeling scared, instead of just melting down onto the floor. Right? How would that change your life? How would that change how it is in your house?
Oh, boy.
Right?
I think I know a lot of parents that might be listening right now going, oh my gosh, I need this.
Okay. So this is the kind of thing we're looking at. And so this communicating skill is one that you can do all the time. As you're intentionally in touch with yourself, you can narrate your life for your child. Oh, right now I'm feeling this. You know what? I need to stop right now.
Right.
And take a breath because your aunt really just got me stirred up or whatever it is,
Right. Right.
So, and then we're saying, okay, for practice, what can we do? Well, for practice, you can belong to something that requires you to put something into it, right? Belonging is not like, oh, I signed up for this. It's like, no, I've made a commitment to this choir that I'm going to be in. I've made a commitment to this team, And so now we have reasons to communicate and we have reasons to do all those other things. And if we know anything in public health, right, we know that having those social connections, having a social network is tremendously important for our physical and our mental health.
Yeah. The Blue Zones taught us that, if nothing else, right?
It's undeniable.
Right.
Right. So I like working with the really obvious because we don't do it all the time.
Right.
It's obvious. We all know these things.
It's the autopilot thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so some of it is just recognizing what you need. Like as you're talking about just even acknowledging how you feel, I think about how infrequently as adults we do that at all, right? We rarely,
even to ourselves, much less out loud.
We
right?
rarely do that. Yeah, to our spouses, our friends. Maybe if you're in a really particularly rough state, you might say, "I'm really bummed today. I'm really sad. I'm really angry. I'm really whatever." But outside of those, you don't know. You rarely say, I feel so great today. I'm so happy today." Right? We acknowledge when we feel kicked in the teeth more than anything else.
Yeah. So I know a young man who says, I have 3 emotions: happy, angry, and whatever. So I mean, to your point, we don't talk about it, so we don't have language for it. And another thing that we know, absolutely, is that the more emotion language our kids have, the more easily they can work with their emotions. If all you've got is mad, you're going to go there. If you got irked, that really irked me. You can't do that loud. It doesn't make you want to swing at somebody, right? So just by talking in more fine kinds of words with our kids about how they're feeling, and how we're feeling. We're making their lives and our lives easier, right?
Well, Don, I know we only have a few minutes, so could you briefly tell us a little bit more? I know that you had said there's online modules that we can do, kind of self-paced, but what else does this program offer?
So we have several dimensions here. So we have the online course. And if you take the online course, the whole thing adds up to 2.5 hours worth of quote unquote instruction, which I don't even think it's that. It's sharing, right? Honestly. Then within that, you can drill down on our resources pages and find things to read, find other places to go and learn about things. We also do events. So, for example, for walking, we did an event with the Brandywine Conservancy and Museum where we went for a 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk, 10 minutes each way along the Brandywine with kids, really pretty much 10 and under. And it was beautiful. It was wild. It was a day where the water was flowing really fast, and it was in October, so it was really colorful and beautiful with the leaves. Everyone came away, responded with art. They all had sketchbooks that they could make pictures, and then they were able to go to the museum and go in. So we do things like that sort of, highlight how you could do things with your kids. We also have weekly a Zoom meeting, and the Zoom meeting is almost always with a guest. And so we have a guest come in and talk about some facet of this or some facet of things that you can do. So we've been talking about paying attention sort of since we started. And we did it with someone who had just completed a book about bird watching and came and talked to us about watching birds with your kid and how to get started. We had a fishing guide come on and talk about that particular form of paying attention and how to do that with your kids. So those are the kinds of other dimensions.
I want to make sure that we get out there how people can find this.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we are lifeskillspa.org. So you can find us that way.
That's the most important piece.
Yes.
Make sure that everybody knows that at lifeskillspa.org, and that also that it is available in Spanish.
Yes, it will be available in Spanish starting in February.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. I'm pretty sure that we could keep talking about this for a lot longer, but sadly, our show is coming to an end. So, Dawn, I want to thank you for all the information for the program. I think it's just necessary. It's beautifully done. I think it really offers everybody something that's easy, bite-sized pieces that can be life-changing and will be, I think, a tremendous help to parents.
Just a little bit at a time. Vacations all through the day.
Right.
Right.
Great. That's a great sentiment. So I want to thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you so much, Don. We're at the end of our show now. Thank you all for tuning in to Let's Talk About It on WCHE. 1520.com for streaming and 95.3 WCHE. We'll see you next week.
All right. That was actually pretty fun to replay and to actually hear what I said. So at the end there, I was talking about all the things that we do, and that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up as we sort of close tonight's meeting. So firstly, were there any comments or questions? No, there have not been. All right. Maybe there are now that you see me again. I don't know. what is he? What is he doing there? So a couple of interesting things are happening. We're growing. We're building this program. And we are about to take this show on the road. So we've got some equipment that's going to allow us to move around to different places in the county to have live audiences participate. So, you won't have to just type into the chat. You can stand up and ask your question or talk about what's happening with you as you're using the program, right? So we're really looking forward to that. We're looking forward to more events. We, in fact, have a Brandywine Art Museum event coming up on April 13th. And so more about that soon. It's about slow looking. So it's another train your attention kind of event. And let me see, what else is coming up? What else is coming up is next week, on the 15th of February, we are going to be talking about digital wellness with a brand new expert, friend of mine from Italy. So next week we'll be on at early afternoon, and you'll get the hour and the date. So it's the 15th. So this is something that we haven't talked about yet. 16 meetings in, and we haven't really talked about what the screens mean. And what we're going to do with my friend Frankie is to go beyond all the talk about screen time. Screen time is not the deal. It's not the thing you should fight over. It's not the thing you should even worry about. There's are many other ways of thinking about how we can, work with our kids and the technologies which are here to stay, right? So how do we do it in the best possible way? So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. And the other thing that I want to say is that now that we're mobile, and now that you know that we're doing things out in the community, I would say, please invite us. If there's a time or place where it would make sense for a talk of 5 minutes or 90 minutes, whatever you're willing to give me, to talk about the program, to give some pointers, to do some practice, I'm there. Okay, so just ask. Our website is lifeskillspa.org. You can get to us through there. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for being with us tonight.